Imagine this. A professional beekeeper, deeply immersed in her work, stumbles upon something that completely astonishes her. She finds that the Quran, a text over 1,400 years old, contains detailed information about honeybees, insights that modern science has only recently confirmed. In this video, we'll walk you through her journey of discovery as she unearths remarkable revelations about bee behavior, anatomy, and their intricate roles in nature. How could such precise knowledge have been recorded centuries ago? Let's dive in and explore this captivating mystery. MCK Orton's journey as a beekeeper was one of deep dedication to understanding these small but vital creatures. Her training in entomology taught her about the inner workings of bees, their complex societal structures, and their essential role in ecosystems. As someone familiar with nature's intricacies, she was well-versed in scientific literature about bee behavior and anatomy, topics often discussed in secular, empirical terms. But upon hearing that a religious text could contain precise information about bees, her curiosity was piqued. This was not just any book, but the Quran, a scripture revealed over 1,400 years ago, a time when human understanding of insects and their roles was rudimentary at best. For Orton, this discovery challenged her expectations and broadened her perspective, sparking her interest in exploring more about these ancient verses. As Orton delved into Surah An-Nahl, she noticed patterns and numbers that seemed beyond mere coincidence. She observed that verse 68, which speaks about bees, is structured with 16 words using exactly 16 unique Arabic letters. To her trained eye, this detail resonated with scientific facts she knew. Female bees, like humans, have 16 pairs of chromosomes, a genetic marker not discovered until centuries after the Quran was revealed. This level of specificity was surprising for a text from the 7th century. Orton was beginning to see how bees, so respected and honored in Islamic teachings, held symbolic importance beyond their biological functions.
I heard there was a chapter in the Quran about honeybees, so I had to check it out, and this is what I found. Chapter 16 is called The Bee. And Islam highly respects the bee to the point where it's a sin to kill one. Okay, 3 key points, 3 things that I liked. Number 1, it talks about...
Orton found it remarkable that Islam considers harming bees a serious matter. This reverence was not merely symbolic. It aligned with Islamic teachings emphasizing ecological preservation, respect for all living creatures, and the interdependent relationship between humans and nature. Historically, the Prophet Muhammad encouraged compassion for animals, often emphasizing that cruelty to animals was unacceptable. For Orton, learning about this cultural and religious attitude toward bees highlighted how Islam's ecological ethos extended beyond theory, rooting itself in everyday life. This aspect of Islamic teaching likely resonated with Orton's own appreciation for environmental stewardship, connecting her work as a beekeeper to a broader ethical framework she had not encountered before. When she encountered the Quranic verse highlighting honey's healing properties, Orton couldn't help but marvel at how honey, produced by bees, was celebrated in both scientific and spiritual texts. Honey has been cherished for its medicinal properties since ancient times, used in many civilizations as a natural remedy. In the Quran, honey's ability to heal is emphasized alongside its different colors, reflecting the natural diversity in types of honey based on the flowers from which bees collect nectar. Orton saw this as more than a coincidence. It was as if the Quran anticipated what centuries of scientific research would later affirm about honey's unique qualities, a fact that added a deeper significance to the substance in her eyes. The beehive, with its organized and industrious society, represents a natural analogy for human communities, and Orton found this reflection within Islamic teachings. In the hive, every bee has a purpose, contributing to a shared goal, much like how individuals in a community serve their roles. She noted how this dedication aligns with the Quranic message of cooperation and harmony in human societies. Historically, Islamic scholars have drawn lessons from nature, often using it to illustrate moral and ethical principles. This analogy likely struck a chord with Orton, connecting the bees' purposeful lives with the values of responsibility and cooperation, often emphasized in Islamic teachings. Orton's discovery of gender-specific verbs in the Quran's description of bees took her by surprise. The use of feminine pronouns and verbs to describe bees' work aligns precisely with what scientists now know about the role of female worker bees in honey production in hive building. Arabic, a language rich in grammatical gender, has specific pronouns that distinguish between male and female subjects. And in the verses about bees, the feminine form is used. This was particularly significant given that scientific knowledge of the 7th century had no understanding of the biological distinctions between male and female bees. The Quran's use of feminine terms for worker bees likely struck Orton as a profound insight into an ancient understanding of the natural world, recorded long before entomology could confirm it. Orton knew that beekeeping and honey production have roots in ancient civilizations. Yet it wasn't until the 1800s that scientists like Edward Bevan discovered that only female bees produce honey, a fact that was still absent from general knowledge at the time. Before this revelation, societies worldwide, including pre-Islamic Arabia, had a limited understanding of the internal workings of a beehive. The Quran's statement about female bees building and collecting nectar struck Orton as a remarkable detail, hinting at a source of knowledge that seemed advanced for its era. It was as if the Quran anticipated modern scientific findings, adding another layer to her appreciation for this ancient scripture. The Quran's mention of bees' stomachs left Orton intrigued, as it points to a level of anatomical detail that was only recently verified through scientific advancements. In her training, she learned that bees have 2 stomachs, one for digestion and another for storing nectar. This second stomach allows bees to transport nectar back to the hive without breaking it down, preserving its natural properties for honey production. The Quranic mention of this anatomical feature, especially within a religious text from the 7th century, provided Orton with what she perceived as another striking parallel between science and scripture. Such a reference in the Quran fascinated her, as it hinted at an ancient wisdom that surpassed the era's scientific limitations. The practice of beekeeping can be traced back to ancient times, where it was primarily for honey collection rather than understanding bees' biology. Throughout centuries, bees were valued for their honey, yet their biological intricacies remain largely unexplored. The Quran's references to bees building their nests in mountains, trees, and solid rock surfaces offered Orton a glimpse into a time when such observations were seen more as wonder than science. It wasn't until recently that scientists discovered certain bee species capable of constructing hives in such diverse environments. This aspect of Quranic teaching allowed Orton to appreciate the text not only as a religious scripture, but as a possible source of historical ecological knowledge. Orton's study of Surah An-Nahl prompted her to reflect on how knowledge about the natural world has traditionally been obtained. In the Quran, verses often direct believers to observe and contemplate the natural world as a testament to creation's beauty and complexity. Orton found herself increasingly fascinated by this perspective, one that encouraged exploration and reverence for life's intricacies. This approach, encouraging reflection on nature as a sign of divine wisdom, added an unexpected dimension to her scientific understanding. The Quran, for her, seemed to bridge the gap between spiritual insight and empirical observation, a realization that deepened her appreciation for the interconnectedness of faith and science.